Hi guys, welcome back to At Home with Holly. My name's Holly. I'm so glad that you're here with me today. Today we are going to be doing our May garden tour. It is early May and today's the perfect day to show you guys what we've got going on. I'm so glad that you're here. So the first thing, which is kind of a new addition, is we have our rain barrel catchment system that we are almost done installing. We still have a few more pieces to go. So more about that later. I have some fence panels that are going to go in front of the rain barrel systems just to kind of have it hidden and a little more cute. And then in our first bed, we have our corn bed. Now, the birds have been pecking at this quite a bit, so I planted it twice. So we'll see when these grow up how full they're going to be, but I think it's going to be pretty good. So all of these raised beds are 8x4 going down on this side. And so in our first bed, we have 4 rows of corn. You are going to notice that I have drip tubing down, but I don't have it hooked up yet. That's one of our projects this spring, is to get all of these beds on irrigation so that I'm not out here watering on the daily. So we have sweet corn growing in this bed. And then next is our asparagus bed. And I did not pick the asparagus for about 4 days, and then they all got big. So we're at the end of our asparagus season. I probably still have a couple more that I could harvest that wouldn't be too woody, but the rest of them, they have sprouted and look glorious and are soaking up all the sun's energy. I originally planted this bed with asparagus and strawberries, and so I tried to remove all of the strawberries and put them in our green stock planters, but evidently I missed some. So right around the edge on this side, we have some strawberries. So those are going to be a nice snack. I'm never opposed to garden snacks while we're out here working. And then in our next bed has cabbages underneath our brassica cages. We built those together. Those are tall enough where you could put Brussels sprouts and stuff in them, but these are to protect from the cabbage moths. We have cabbage moths really bad in our area. And so anything that the cabbage moths like to get into, like brassicas of all kinds, broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, all the things, I always just put one of those around them, things that don't need pollinated, but do want water and fresh air and that kind of stuff. So in that bed, we have our first 2 cabbages, and then these, we have a bed of onions. We have a mix of Patterson and candy onions in this bed. And then on the corners of the beds, I have nasturtium planted. And then we have our sugar snap peas on the first half of this trellis, which are doing great. And then on the other side of the trellis, we have our unagi cucumbers. And we have, well, I planted 2 seeds in each one, but I just want to end up with 3 of each of those plants. And then we have our celery growing back there. And then in this bed, we have our red wing onions and 2 more nasturtiums. Now, some of these beds have pots on the end of them, and right in front of the asparagus bed, we have our echinacea or our coneflowers, and I let them reseed themselves every fall and winter. I take the dried cone heads and kind of sprinkle them in the beds, and they grow many, many more. And then I plant them out other places in the landscaping, but I do let a couple grow each year in there. So that first one has, the first bed has echinacea. The second bed has dill. I did not plant any dill this year, but there was a ton of dill. You can kind of see over there, there's a little bit of dill that's sprouting up in the walkways. We have a ton of volunteer dill every year, and so I just let it come up, and then Olivia, my daughter, collected all of them and went ahead and put them in this bed, in this pot. So now this is going to be our dill pot. And then in this pot, we had some extra violas. I'll show you guys those later, but those, we have a lot of volunteer of those as well coming up, and Olivia loves them, so she transplanted them in all kinds of places to add some pretty. And then we have some rudbeckia that seeded itself as well. In a lot of areas, rudbeckia is a perennial, but in my area, it is not. So we need to reseed it every year. So I was happy to see that it reseeded itself and came back up. And then in our next bed, on this side of the trellis, actually from the last bed, we have three cantaloupes. We have Sarah's Choice cantaloupe and Honey Rock cantaloupe. That's on this side of our cattle panel trellis. And then on the other side of our cattle panel trellis, we have yellow watermelons. We have three of the yellow watermelons from Johnny's. And then this is our sweet pepper bed. So we have our mini sweet bell peppers, orange, yellow, and red. We have our sunbright bell peppers. We have emerald bell peppers. We have coral bell peppers. We have California Wonder. And we have lilac bell peppers in this bed. And then in the front of this bed, we have our shallots. We have Zabroon shallots and I believe conserver shallots. I'm not sure how you pronounce that. And then again with the nasturtium in the corner of this bed, and then more of the cone flowers as well. This bed has coneflowers and salvia. And then this bed is our spicy pepper bed. Okay, the ladies are doing the song of their people, and I tried to get them to calm down, but we'll just continue on with our tour. So in this bed, we have our spicy peppers. So we have, this year I did all jalapenos because that's what I primarily use. Seeing as this is kind of a recession proof garden year, I wanted to mainly grow the things that would replace what I would buy from the grocery store. And if I was going to buy spicy peppers from the grocery store, it would be jalapenos to be able to use them in chili and salsa and just jalapeno peppers and all the things that are most common that we would eat. And then I also put in habanadas and nadapinos because I'm not a huge fan of heat, but I do like the flavor. So having those as an option is nice as well. Garlic chives, they're perennial here, and boy, do they make a strong showing every year. And then I did get some thyme and oregano because thyme and oregano are perennials here. They're perennials here where I live, but for some reason, this winter, my strawberries, my thyme, and oregano all bit the dust. So I had to replace them. So no big deal. I went and picked up some of those. And then in our next bed, at the end of the bed is Olivia's fairy garden with her pollinator waterer and all the stuff that she likes to have in her little area. And then this is our first of two tomato beds. And this year we added the tomato trellises from the style is the one from like Next Level Gardening. And oh, guys, there's a hummingbird. I don't know if you guys can see it. Oh, he flew away. That's the first hummingbird that I've seen this season. So that's exciting. But anyway, this is the trellis style from Next Level Gardening, and I'm liking it so far. I'm really enjoying this. And so the theory is you have the string up there and it's clipped down and buried underneath the tomatoes so that as the tomatoes grow, they'll grow up this trellis. And then when you want, you don't have to top them, you can just let out a little bit each time and they can keep growing more and more season. So definitely someplace like in zones 8, 9, and 10 where they have a little bit of a longer growing season. Maybe this would be even more beneficial, but I'm still excited to try it for here in Northwest Ohio. So in this bed, we have 10 tomatoes. We have 6 on the side without a trellis and 4 on the inside, and then it mirrors itself on the other side. So we have 4 on the inside that it shares with the trellis and 6 on the outside. And I like to do high intensity planting so that we have plants shading out the soil instead of having to use mulch. It's like a living mulch. So down the middle of the row, I have carrots growing. On the outside, I have lettuce on that side. So on this side, we have tomatoes. And the tomatoes on this side, we have gold medal slicer, we have a Paul Robeson, we have a Dr. Wychie, brandywine, a German pink, and a pineapple. They are looking healthy and strong. We are in a week of rain, heavy rain this week. So we are in between rainstorms right now. But they are loving soaking up all that rainwater. I do have basil planted on each of the ends of the beds as well. And again, all of these beds are set up so that once I get the drip main line coming through. They'll all be attached to drip irrigation. Oh, I almost forgot. In this bed over here, we have our sub-pod worm bin for vermicomposting in that bed as well. So that bed over there has the most worm activity, but really all of our beds have pretty strong worm activity. So in this bed, we have more lettuce. We have two kinds of cut and come again lettuce. That's our favorite style. And then for tomatoes, what do we have on this side? We have a Sheboygan paste tomato. We have a pink ox heart tomato. This is a Federley tomato that I killed and then threw some seeds in there. So we've got another one popping up. Then we have orange ox hearts. And then on the inside of this trellis, we have Minnesota midget melons. And on the inside of this trellis, we have sweet passion melons and Kajari melons. We really like melons, and the cantaloupes are our favorite, and those happen to be really sweet varieties of cantaloupe. So we enjoy growing those. There's nothing that compares to the taste of homegrown carrots or melon, in my opinion. They just don't compare to anything you can buy at the store. So then we do have a basil at the end of the bed as well, right up next to our 4x4. And then in this bed, at the end of the bed, well, I'll take you through each one by one. So the first tomato, well, first of all, we have 2 rows of lettuce here as well. I used really old seeds, so it didn't come through great on the first row, but the second row came in beautifully. Then we have a blue beech tomato. We have an Amish paste tomato. We have an Inchiardi, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, tomato, and a Granadero tomato. These are all paste style tomatoes. And then I have carrots growing down the middle again as well. And again, we already talked about the melons. And then I have basil. I like to tuck basil in where it's going to get a little bit shaded, but it'll still get sun, because that way it's a little slower to go to seed, which is, always the goal, is to harvest and use as much of it as we can. So then on the back half of this row, I did onions along the outside, and then I have a Jersey Devil tomato. I have a striped Roma tomato. I have one that I killed and replaced from the local garden center, which is Sun Sugar. Then I have a black cherry, and I also have a champagne bubbles and a tropical sunset. And all of the tomato varieties that we're growing for this part of the season are indeterminate, meaning that they grow to an indeterminate length. They will just keep growing for as long as you can keep them healthy. Our second round of tomatoes will be determinate, which means they grow to a determined size. So those are the ones that you usually put in tomato cages. And so when I pull my garlic out, I'll usually try to do one planting, one round of the determinate tomatoes. But the majority of our season, we use the indeterminate varieties here. They both work here, but that's just what I prefer to grow. In the next bed, we have a new thing this year, which is stevia plants. I wanted to try growing it and harvesting it and see, how much would it take to grow stevia, and how much would I need to harvest, and all that kind of stuff. And do I like the taste? So it's just something new we're trying. And then in the ends of the beds, I have nasturtium, and these are our garlic that we planted last October, I believe, end of October, early November. And so these are a mixture of soft neck and hard neck garlics. They're doing really well. And again, I put the irrigation lines in, but haven't hooked them up yet. And then on the back side, I have 3 sunflowers, just for something pretty. They're going to grow up way larger than the garlic will. And that's a fun little addition. And then in the end of these 3 beds, I planted our sweet potatoes, which are very sad right now, but I'm hoping that they perk up soon. And then in this bed at the end, I have zinnias. And then this bed was planted out with elephant garlic and then shallots at the end. And I don't know whether I mulched it too soon, but a lot of the bulbs that I planted rotted out, and I've never had that happen before. I mulched it a lot heavier than I normally do and a lot earlier. So I think maybe that has something to do with it, but a few of them did pop up and I was happy to see that. But I was hoping for a whole bed of elephant garlic, so it's definitely something we'll have to troubleshoot and try again next year. I have another three of sunflower Steve's sunflowers at the end of this bed. And then this bed is our potato bed, and it is very happy. We planted these out the first week of April, and they are just exploding with growth. So that's exciting to see. This is Olivia's bed. In her bed, we have green beans that we just planted a couple days ago. In here, I have four indeterminate tomatoes that'll go back and forth on the trellis. And then the back half of the trellis, I planted Malabar spinach. And then underneath the trellis, I planted lettuce, which hasn't germinated yet. The spinach and the lettuce has not germinated yet. And then she has five snapdragons, a few celotias, and then her French marigold that she got from her first grade teacher. I think it was a Mother's Day or something that they all grew them together. And so she's been growing and saving the seeds from that for several years now. So that's a special one. And then on the back side of the chicken coop, we have our first of the green stalks. And this green stalk, the very top is planted with parsley, rosemary, sage, um, and some marjoram. And then throughout here, we have some of our alpine strawberries that I tried to move from the other side of the garden. Some of them are waking back up, and some of them look pretty sad, like they're not going to come back. So I did purchase a flat of them to replant all the ones that are not coming back, and I'll stick any extras I have in the berry beds. And then this is new on the back side of the chicken coop. We planted a whole bunch of low growing, spreading perennials, like creeping fox and stuff like that, and some ice plants, so that this will fill in really nicely through here. And we'll get some pea gravel so that the beauty goes all the way around the chicken coop. And along the back fence line, we planted some sunflowers, and we actually picked up these yellow, purple, orange, pink things are things that we found at Menards on a clearance rack this winter. They're wildflower, like sheets of wildflower seeds. So we rolled them out. We cut them all in half and rolled them out along the fence line. We put some compost down first, some cardboard compost, and then rolled out the wildflower seeds. So I'm excited to see those grow. Some of the things we planted over the past few years have already been coming back. So we have coneflowers that are coming back and a few other wildflowers that are already coming back. But we just want to add to it. Every year we try to add more and more wildflowers because we share the property line with a school, and the school, of course, tries to keep the property line clean by, spraying weed killer and stuff to keep the fence line managed. So we just like to plant wildflowers and things for the pollinators on the other side. So on this side of the chicken coop, we have our first of the red strawberry planters. And again, these did not overwinter, so I got some new ones to add. And then of course we have the cottage garden going around the front of the chicken coop, and our girls relaxing and scratching and having a good time. And then we have our third green stalk, which has more of the red strawberries. And then this little explosion, we had some violas in there last year, and obviously they went to seed, and they are spilling out even through the cracks. So Olivia's been having a good time pulling those out, potting them up, and putting them other places. So that's been really fun. And then in this bed, we have two artichokes and one zucchini. I don't do zucchini every year, but this year feels like a zucchini year so that I can get a lot of it shred up and put in the freezer for making zucchini muffins and zucchini bread. And then I'm going to try and grow at the end of the season, let them get really large and kind of hard. Winter squash and summer squash they're all the same thing. It's just that summer squash, we tend to pick and eat the fruit when they're young and more tender. And winter squash, we tend to let, not every kind, but most of them, we tend to let grow out until they're larger and have a harder skin so that they store better. But zucchini, if you let them grow and get a harder, tougher skin, will actually store well too. So I'm going to try to do that to have something a little different to give my chickens at the end of the season. So that'll be a fun experiment. But on the second half of this bed has another one of our brassica cages and two more cabbages inside of it and a nice lovely weed. And then around the outside here, we have some lavender and some creeping phlox. And we have our row of arborvitae that's growing in that I planted uh, 4 years ago. And they were a foot long, foot tall, not even a foot tall. And they look like little twigs and they have grown in really nicely. So that'll be a nice little privacy screen. Then we have our first of two flowering dogwoods. And then this year we added, I think this is a crepe myrtle. The Arbor Day Foundation had the thing that they do every year where if you donate, they send you little dormant trees. And so this year, my neighbors and I, we both did the donation. And so we have a whole lot of fast growing green trees for them on their fence line, kind of what we did with the arborvitae here. And then we also had a whole bunch of flowering trees like crepe myrtles and dogwoods and stuff. And so I just sprinkled a few of them into my backyard and front yard landscape. And then we did the same in theirs as well. So that's been a fun thing to watch them grow from little twigs, just like they did, the arborvitae did. Oh, the dogwoods are flowering actually. You can see these dogwoods flowering. I love this time of year when everything's coming into bloom. Okay, next for our berry and orchard side. So after the dogwoods comes our perennial berry area and our mini orchard. And right now we also have our turkeys in the turkey tractor. So that's been a fun addition. These turkeys are a hoot, you guys. They are like dogs. They are so sweet. They're so different than chickens. This is my first time ever raising them. I've raised chickens obviously before, but they they they're curious. They're kind of not as intelligent, I don't think, but they're curious and they're super friendly and they just kind of follow you around and they talk to you and we've really enjoyed having them. So that's been an eye-opening experience raising some meat turkeys for sure. So the first of our fruit trees is an apple tree. I believe this is a Fuji or a Honeycrisp. I can't remember. So we have four apple trees. We have Fuji, Honeycrisp, Jonathan, and Macintosh. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and I do not remember which tree is which. So it will be a fun surprise when they grow. But I think this one's the Fuji and this one's the Honeycrisp, or this one's the Fuji and this one's the Honeycrisp. And one of these is a Jonathan, and one of them is a Macintosh. So I like all four of those, so I'm okay with whichever one turns out to be whichever one. And then this one is a new one this year. This is a pawpaw tree, and it does need a pollinating partner. So I convinced my next door neighbors to put a pollinating partner pawpaw on their side of the fence too. So that'll be fun to watch those grow. And then the next tree we have is a nectaplum. I used to have two fig trees, but it turns out that I'm not a huge fan of growing figs. I like to eat figs, but growing figs in my area, they die back to the ground almost every year unless we have a very mild winter. And then they start to grow all the way from the ground again. So you don't get a ton of figs. You get a handful of figs. And to me, that is a waste of growing food real estate. I want to grow things that can produce a lot in a little bit of square footage, and that was taking up the place of two fruit trees, and I was only going to get a handful. So I would rather buy from someone locally that enjoys growing them or has a better setup, or just buy them occasionally as a treat than grow them here and have dedicated fig tree space. So changed it to a pawpaw and a nectaplum. And I'm excited about those additions. And then the first of our berry beds, as you can see, that are going down here, we have a new blueberry bush because the bunnies ate our blueberries. So I left the tags on so that I can do this tour, and then I'll be able to have a record of it. So the first one is a chandler. It's going to get pretty large, 5 to 7 feet. And then on the end of this bed, in the next week or so, I'm going to plant two kiwi plants, one here and one here, and put a trellis going over the top. So that will be fun. These next two, this one I planted last year, and ate the bunnies ate all of our blueberries down to nubs. So this one was one that they ate about half of the plant away. So I'm not sure. This might be a Patriot. It might be a Chandler. I'm not sure. But the bunnies ate most of it, sadly. So that's why we're replacing so many blueberries this year, because blueberries are something that we really enjoy to eat. And um, it's nice to have them grown here. So this one is a Patriot, I believe. Yeah, this one's a Patriot as well. And then we have two more Patriots, and then we have two of the pink lemonades. And in between the pink lemonades, we have what the bunnies ate away. We have some North Country and also some jelly bean. And then this one is a new jelly bean as well. And these are all ones that stay quite a bit smaller. So they are crammed in here mostly because I don't think there's about three of them that I don't think are going to survive anyway. So I want to just put them all in this bed. And then back over here, we have our first of our grapes. So this is our first grape that we have growing here. We have three sets of grape plants. We have one, two, and then a third is down there. And so those are going to be growing up. And this is our um, trellising system that we have for the grapes that are going to be, hopefully, as they grow and stay happy here, they're going to grow along here and make it a beautiful grape filled trellis. And then this is, I had a peach tree that didn't make it. And so this is a new peach tree this year. This is a Carolina Belle peach, and this is a white flesh peach. So I'm excited to add that to our collection of fruit trees. And then this is a cherry tree, a sweet cherry tree. This is its, I think, third or fourth year. So it won't grow any fruit for another year or two. This is our raspberry bed. And so this is where we grow our golden raspberries. They're a little sweeter, a little less sour than normal red raspberries. Um, so I'm excited to have these here. And then this is our first of two blackberry beds. I love blackberries. The bunnies kind of got in here and made some nests this winter, so this bed is coming back. But the other bed they didn't make any nests in, and so that bed's a lot stronger. And then this is another peach tree that we have here, another dwarf peach tree. Our third grape, more blackberries. And then this is our plum tree. This one's coming in, it's looking really strong. And then in our last bed, we have two currant plants, a really lovely weed, and some more of the alpine strawberries that I did not try to transplant. I just left those there. We actually have two right there as well. And then I did pick up a flat of alpine strawberry. I did pick up a flat of alpine strawberries because, again, I wasn't sure that they were going to survive the transition. And so I got a flat of Yellow Wonder strawberries. And so I am going to be replacing the ones that did not survive the transplant. And then any extras that we have, I will stick along the front of the berry beds just to make sure that we have backups upon backups. Because what I discovered was the alpine strawberries are delicious. They taste like a strawberry and a pineapple, or strawberry and banana. I don't know. They're just such an interesting flavor that I've never tasted before. And so myself and my friends and my neighbors, we all really enjoyed eating them. So I wanted to make sure we had plenty of those um, growing in all the places because they're highly productive and they fruit all season long. I did make some jam, and the jam turns like a dull brown color. It doesn't stay that like white yellow color. So, but it still tastes good. So they're definitely more for fresh eating, I think. But I think that's going to do it for us, you guys. This is our first garden tour of the season, and I'm so excited that we were able to bring it to you today. I want to thank you guys so much for the likes and the comments and the shares. If you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing. We have a whole lot more gardening and growing and preserving and building projects and turkeys and chickens and all kinds of fun things yet to come. I can't wait to see you guys next time. Bye, my friend.